Good afternoon, everyone. Can y'all hear me okay? Nice to meet everyone. Mike Stetz. I'm from PwC in the US. I work on our aerospace and defense practice. We have an awesome agenda for you today. The next 50 minutes with my fellow panelists cover a lot of what's happening in the market. First, we want to just start off with about 10 minutes, just a couple of insights that we see from the PwC US perspective, both globally and with the US A&D market. Then we'll move into our panel conversation where we have these three great leaders from Korean A&D companies, and we'll talk through some of the challenges and opportunities that we see in the market. So first, maybe spend a few minutes on what we're seeing from a global A&D market perspective. As you all know, A&D is probably undertaking one of the most significant periods of transformation we've seen in decades, and that change really is driven by two main forces: geopolitical instability and massive new investments in defense capabilities. A few examples to highlight: AUKUS Alliance has already funded led to commitments of $240 billion in shipbuilding, including 11 directly to be invested in the US and UK submarine production capacity. Across Europe, we've seen NATO countries pledge to more than double their commitments of defense spending by 2025, which is really a fundamental shift in the alliance, which usually has historically been mostly US first. In space, we're seeing the global space industry expected to reach 1.5 trillion by 2035, driven not only by defense and surveillance, but also commercial satellite growth. We're also seeing, due to a lot of the conflicts that are happening in the world, strained stockpiles. So we're seeing that at both ends of the weapon and munition spectrum. We're seeing advanced systems like THAAD and the RIM-161 being depleted faster than they can be made. And we're also in Ukraine, enormous amount of demand for artillery rounds, and we've seen billions in new investments in the US to keep up with that. Really, the key takeaway from our perspective is demand is surging, and in many cases it's outpacing supply, and we think that imbalance will shape the industry for years to come. Next, we wanted to highlight just a little bit from the US perspective of all the change that's happening with the US A&D market. Really, there's been a ton of significant investment this past year, and a lot of it has been mainly because of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Interesting name, but that's what it is. And so really we've seen two areas, right? We've seen investments in three key areas. The first being shipbuilding. $29 billion has been allocated to bolster US naval capacity, with $5 billion of that specifically for unmanned autonomous vessels, showing the administration's commitment in the future of autonomous marine operations. On the nuclear front, we're seeing $10 billion put towards recapitalization of the arsenal, focusing a lot on the Sentinel ICBM program, which is the next generation of the US intercontinental ballistic missile, and also fortification of nuclear facilities. From a defense and missile perspective, we're seeing integrated defense systems. Trump's proposed the Golden Dome in the US, $24 billion allocated to that, and another $2 billion to focus on hypersonics and related infrastructure. And it's not just these, I'll say, more traditional areas. We're also seeing advancements in AI, autonomous systems, robotics, and that's causing a lot of new players to enter the US market. So we're seeing advanced tech providers, commercial space and maritime enterprises, and innovative startups that are trying to take advantage of more commercial-based technologies in the US market, compared to some of the traditional players who mainly only have usually focused on your traditional defense industries. Next, there's been a lot of regulatory change in the US. The new administration has wanted to simplify how the US procures goods and services from its contractors. And so we're seeing really two areas of focus. The first being streamlined procurement. This administration wants to put a focus on agile acquisition pathways and commercial-based technologies. And so the US historically has had a default to go to more traditional negotiation-based models. And really, this administration wants to push commercial-based technology. So if you offer something that is commercial or commercial derivative, they want to be able to procure that efficiently and fast, and not with the slow, traditional, long cycle defense procurements in the US. We're also seeing regulatory change to support that concept of traditional agile-based commercial contracting. And so there's a ton of regulation that governs US procurement regulation. The administration is in the process of trying to rewrite that. It remains to be seen how transformative it is. We're seeing some areas that is what I would say transformative. Others appear to be a little more cosmetic in nature, but there's still time for that to continue. But one thing definitely to keep in mind is that regardless of how the acquisition policy is rewritten, there is a push and focus in the commercial side of defense to streamline and speed up what has historically been a long, slow process. Last thing of interest, I think, for foreign companies, there's historically been a restriction on foreign ownership for defense programs that have classified work. This administration is looking at expanding that to be for on uncleared programs as well. So that's going to implicate any foreign companies that want to do business with the US DoD community in the future. To build on that, we have these two recent executive orders that are driving, I'll say, a lot of this change in the US marketplace. The first is modernizing defense acquisitions and spurring innovation in the defense industrial base. Really, it hits at that key point of this administration wants to buy as much commercially as possible and a first preference for commercial solutions. And then second is really around that concept of simplifying procurement. And so if you think about as an organization either looking to get into the defense market or expanding your defense business, what are those areas that kind of are opportunities for you? So if you have commercial-like technologies that or products that can support defense applications, this administration really is wanting to put a prioritization on that. There's also alternative contract vehicles that the US government is looking at for companies to do research and development, namely CSOs and OTAs, other transaction authorities. They're a way to allocate funding to a non-traditional defense contractor or a non-traditional federal contractor and to give them the ability to have access to funding without a lot of the regulatory and compliance burden that historically has been required in those types of programs. So just three key takeaways, I think, before we move into the panel conversation. First, there's a ton of regulatory change in the US with this administration. They want to make it easier to sell to the US government. Second, geopolitical concerns have really brought national security back to the top of the kind of global outlook. We talked about NATO spending, and then the US specifically, the national defense budget is expected to exceed $1 trillion for the first time. And I think lastly, we're seeing that refortification of the industrial base. So things like missiles, missile defense, and lastly, kind of refortification of our nuclear arsenal. It's a lot of exciting times and change in the defense industry, both globally and in the US. And so now I think we're going to move into our panel conversation here, where we can talk about how some of these trends and issues are affecting both Korean companies and other companies around the world, and where we see opportunity for organizations to take advantage of this. Can you all hear me? Okay, great. So before we move into the panel, I know you heard briefly from the video each of the panelists, but I wanted to give each of them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So HT, you want to go first?
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hyung-taek Kim, but feel free to call me HT. So I'm now a Senior Vice President and Research Advisor working for HD Hyundai. Currently, I'm working in naval and special ship sector, particularly in charge of the development of AI-based unmanned ship. So before I joined the naval and special ship, I worked for the development of AI solutions for commercial ship, especially for product and design, including the autonomous navigation vessel. Typically my background is R&D. Anyway, I'm honored to be here and look forward to our meaningful conversation. Thank you.
Great, Dylan.
Yeah, Annyeong Shimika. My name is Dylan Jones. I'm the executive director for the Boeing Korea Engineering and Technology Center. So that's a over 100-person research center that we have here in Gangnam in Asim Tower. From Boeing, I've spent about 20 years at Boeing so far, most of it in new product development or R&D. The past 4 years, I've been here in Korea, where I live with my wife and two children. Yeah, I have two. I say that because you'll have to forgive me. I am very low on sleep and high on caffeine, as my second son was born here in Korea three weeks ago. So I'm actually on paternity leave, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to come and talk about what we're doing and the partnerships that are developing here in Korea. So thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. Wonjae?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Wonjae from Hanwha Aerospace. I actually retired from the Army last October, and I joined the Hanwha Aerospace this March. So I'm a kind of newbie here for the private sector. So it's my honor to have a great chance to talk with great people here. And thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, panelists. So we want to talk really about 3 topics, I think, over the next 37 minutes. I've been told we cannot go over, so we will not go over. It will keep us on track. The first kind of broad topic we have a few questions on is the Korea aerospace and defense market. And Wonjae, I think I'm going to do the first question to you. The expansion of the global defense markets presented opportunities for all. However, Korea's growth has really been particularly remarkable. What factors, from your perspective, have you seen enable K-Defense to utilize this momentum?
I think there are 4 factors for the answers. First is quality. I think Korean products stand shoulder to shoulder with those from traditional defense powerhouses, such as the United States or Germany. Take the K9 self-propelled howitzer, for example. It has been exported to multiple countries and has proven its performance in extreme conditions, like a snowfield, extreme hot, in the desert, mountains. So this is backed by the research, decades of continuous research and development, driven by security challenges on the Korean peninsula. Companies like Hanwha, in particular, possesses strong capabilities across artillery, armored vehicles, air defense, guided munitions, aerospace, ensuring we meet the diverse needs of our customers. Second, delivery. Korea has responded swiftly to the surge in global defense demand, especially after the outbreak of Ukraine war. A notable case in Hanwha's contract with Poland for the first batch of 24 K9 self-propelled howitzers in 2022. The company delivered the first unit of just 6 months, demonstrating unmatched speed in meeting customers' requirements. Third, cost. Because of Korea's unique security environment, we operate to produce large volumes of defense systems domestically. Combined with the export, this scale creates strong economies of scale, allowing us to offer highly competitive pricing. At the same time, Korea's robust defense ecosystem ensures efficiency and reliability in production. Finally, trust. Most of the systems we export are also operated by the Korean armed forces, which means they have already been rigorously tested and proven in the field. In addition, the Korean government actively supports defense exports, while Korea's long-standing reputation in politics, economics, and culture further strengthens trust. This is a major advantage in the government-to-government nature of the defense businesses. These 4 elements, quality, delivery, cost, and trust, from the foundation of the Korea's remarkable growth in the global defense market.
Thank you, Wonjae. I think those 4 are fantastic, and they definitely resonate with me thinking about those factors that really why K-Defense really can exceed there. Next question, we're going to turn to Dylan. Dylan, you've worked closely with aerospace companies here in Korea. In your view, what makes Korea an attractive partner in global programs? And how can collaboration between international primes and contractors and Korea firms evolve to strengthen competitiveness?
Yeah, good question. So 2 parts. One, the attractive partner. we were joking ahead of time. When you got in on Sunday, you talked to your kids, and they thought it was really cool that you were in the future compared to where you live in Dallas, right?
I still don't think they actually comprehend that, but yes.
But that's actually what I tell my friends about me living here and operating here is welcome to the future. And so I'd like to kind of double click on what Wonjae was saying about culture. What best describes Korea is a culture of innovation. So we got to kind of define those terms. But really, the first is R&D intensity or density. When you look at the data shows it. Whether it's researchers per million, Korea's number one in the world, right? Where it's a R&D investment as a percentage of GDP, again, top in the world. When you look at manufacturing as a share of GDP, top 3 in the world. This is a really dense R&D environment, not to mention density of robotics and automation, which I'll talk a lot about today, about capability that's leading us. The second about a culture of innovation is capability. I know it. I work with these folks every day. When I first got to Korea 4 years ago, we were a team of only about 30 people. Now we're over 100 engineers at our center. This is one of the most highly skilled workforces I've ever been a part of at our company or in interacting. I think the engineering we have in Korea at Boeing is some of the highest value engineering across the company. Not just internally, though, with the partners. The people we meet and interact with, they're very open. They work with us very collaboratively. And it's been just a wonderful place to do business, not to mention the capability and technologies, world-leading technologies that are here in Korea. The last, and maybe I think it underpins a lot, is pali-pali, right? A sense of urgency, right? There's a dynamicism to Korea and Korea's industry that businesses can transform by being open to doing new ways of business. I manage a couple different centers across the world. I've seen how other countries and cultures interact, and not as many move as fast and are as dynamic and as urgent as doing work here in Korea. So that's really what I mean by a culture of innovation. That's why it's attractive. The second part of your question, I think, is more around how can we collaborate better. When I look at that, I think we're going to move from kind of a purely transactional nature, specifically in defense, into more co-development. There will always be transactions, especially with this administration in charge. I think we see a lot of that. That's business. But what we're starting to see is that I think the old way of there's a winner and a loser in every deal is moving aside to a more of a 1 + 1 = 3 of how do we co-develop, how do we co-invest, how do we get a better product together. And we're investing that. So our center has several MOUs across the government and industry partners. And I'll talk a little bit more about our partnerships locally, but you're starting to see a co-investment. Like we're doing R&D with Korean companies in Korea, but for the world.
Awesome, thank you. I heard in your first part a similar theme to Wonjae, talking about quality, right? I think that's super important for success, not only here in the global market, but also in the US market. Thank you, Dylan. HT, I want to come to you. What are the future prospects of unmanned weapon systems, including unmanned naval vessels and AI-driven solutions that you're seeing in the defense market?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mike, for the important question. I'd like to share my thoughts on the outlook for unmanned systems and AI technology, especially from the perspectives of population decline and the changing paradigm of warfare. Many countries, including Republic of Korea, are facing a serious challenge today, which is population decline. Because of a population cliff, the number of young people available for military service is shrinking. And this manpower shortage is not just a Navy issue. It is something all the 3 services are struggling with these days. Of course, there have been many social and policy level efforts to solve this problem, but it is not something that can be fixed easily. That's why more and more countries, especially advanced nations with the same challenges, are beginning to see technology, and especially AI, as a key solution to solve and to survive. We could clearly see that trend at the MADEX exhibition last May in Korea, where navies from all around the world came to the HD Hyundai booth, showing explosive interest in unmanned system, unmanned vessels, and also crew reduction solutions for manned vessels as well. At the same time, we are also witnessing the clear evidence from the battlefield in Ukraine. Small unmanned surface vessels, USV drones, have been able to sink larger patrol ships. This has proven the effectiveness of the unmanned system. Based on this, many navies are now announcing plans to make unmanned systems a major part of their force structure. For example, the US Navy recently revealed a plan to secure 26% of its fleet, which is 134 vessels, as unmanned weapon systems. This shows us that the shift from manned to unmanned system is no longer a future vision. It is already being reality. So in this situation where you face the decline of manpower resources and the rise of demand for unmanned systems, so the deployment of the AI technology is not just an option to choose. I think it's a task directly tied to survival for all of us. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that last point you made is so important, that it's not a choice, right? That unmanned AI and this defense market are really the future. And if you are a company who traditionally hasn't played in those spaces, you will most likely be left behind by those who are transforming or those who can enter the market faster. Awesome, thank you. Next, I wanted to maybe hit on a couple global and US trends in this next series of questions. Dylan, maybe I'll start with you first. Technology, Phil. From your experience leading the R&D center in Korea, what elements of Korea do you see as the most valuable in advancing some of these next generation A&D technologies that we've been talking about?
Yeah, good. I'll jump right off on the AI point. First, what our center does in Korea, why we're 100 engineers and continue to grow, many job openings currently as well. It's around data and how we move data and understand data. And AI is a tool or maybe even a resource within that. Our center of 100 people, 100 engineers, we're about 50% are software engineering, where we are building tools for the enterprise on how we move data across our products. We're working on the next generation operating system for Boeing, where we move maybe data not just in unmanned systems, but also around our factories and our supply chains and understanding the contextualizing that data and drawing real insights and getting faster results and actual value from it. So we've built a team of 25 AI engineers, and they're not inventing algorithms, but they're applying it for value, accelerating our business. Our team looks at LLMs as a raw material. I think people think it's more of a tool or a resource. I look at it as a raw material. It has to be processed, it has to be contextualized, it has to be brought into your business. And we're building a lot. And then we have systems engineers as well that work cross-functionally with partners here in Korea. Okay, so why are we doing that here in Korea? I think Korea, you have to excuse me when I say we in Korea. I've lived here for 4 years. So when I say we, I'm actually speaking as a Korean. I confuse my friends all the time with that.
You told me earlier they say you're what, American
yeah, so
Korean?
I have many Korean American friends, and I say we so much when I talk about Korea that they've called me an American Korean now. So we in Korea, I think the landscape is set up really well for capitalizing on this digital transformation. I know Hyundai has really good partnerships and leading the way in their shipbuilding in this area, Hanwha as well. Look at the data governance. If you look at the AI Readiness Index, the architectures and infrastructure that's set up here, the governance, I'm frustrated that Google Maps doesn't work on my phone. There's a reason that it doesn't work on my phone, and that has created an industry of really good data governance and data architecture, and that's going to be a gold mine for us and companies operating here in how we apply AI and this next generation tool. So that's one of the large reasons we're here and what we're kind of finding as the themes behind some of the larger defense products.
Awesome. That Google Maps reference, I learned that the hard way. This is my first time to Korea, and I wondered why I couldn't get anywhere, unless it was by transit. So, and I found very quickly I needed to download a different app. Thanks, Dylan. Those are great insights on kind of why you all, from a Boeing perspective, are focusing so much here in Korea. I think, HT, I'll move to you for this next question. What key factors should we consider when introducing emerging technologies such as AI and autonomy in the defense sector?
Thanks again, Mike. Let me share my thoughts based on my own experience as a researcher with a background in R&D. As all of us are well aware, AI technology is already transforming the civilian world. And I think these lessons are directly relevant to defense field as well. Let's think about it. Autonomous driving, computer vision, and natural language processing have been proving their reliability and its performance. We see this every day. Robotaxis replacing human drivers, and service robots in the restaurants, automating tough and sometimes dangerous work, and drones reducing the risk to human lives in the hazard area. And we are more and more relying to the ChatGPT for everything. These technologies no longer surprise us. They have already become the part of our daily life. When it comes to the naval weapon systems, the same is true. AI-based autonomous ship technology has already reached a very advanced level, especially in the commercial ship sector, where the hundreds of vessels are already in operation. And as the world #1 shipbuilding country, Korea has long led the way in autonomous navigation and crew reduction technologies. In these circumstances, I think the most practical path forward is to quickly adapt and transfer these proven civilian technology into the naval environment. I'm pretty sure that this will cut down both development costs and time. But there is clearly a challenge we must have. Even if the technology is ready, the procedures for applying new technology and products to defense systems remain too slow and complex. Technology is advancing very rapidly, faster than ever before. AlphaGo appeared in 2016, less than 10 years ago. And at that time, how many of us imagined that by 2025, today, ChatGPT would be changing our daily life like this? Now, let's assume that it takes 3 hours to apply today's technology to a new weapon system. In the current defense acquisition system, even 3 years is considered very fast and ambitious. But by the time the system is deployed, the technology may no longer be new. If tech drives the future battlefield, we believe the speed is not an option as well. It should be a necessary condition. That's why we need to streamline our process and make stronger efforts to bring already commercialized and proven civilian technology into defense sector. Make it faster. That's it.
Great response. And we're seeing this in the US, at least one of the administration's focus now, as I mentioned, is they want to adapt commercial technologies and leverage that in a commercial way when possible. So it's great to hear you echo that on the engineering and the R&D side, that we need to move faster and go quicker than we have in the past. We made it through our planned questions. I have one last question for you all. There's a lot of individuals in the audience here, I assume, from different backgrounds. They may work at an A&D company now. They may be looking to get in the field. They may be at a growing company. I guess you all are leaders at your respective organizations. Given all we've talked about today, from where the industry and the market is going, what is one piece of advice you would give to those in the audience in under 30 to 45 seconds?
Yeah, sure, why not? One of the things we talk about at our center actually is like what it takes to be a good engineer, and I think what it takes to just be a good leader or in this industry is be curious. Not only that, but stay curious. Things are moving very fast. Just, last year we were using GPT-4, now we're on 5. We're trying to learn how agentic is going to come into the business. You need to stay up on trends, and that means you need to be curious about trends, about people, about technology, and how that your business can change. Because I think this new era, this fast era, these old structures that won't be broken down are going to be broken down and worn down over time by faster movers, and those are going to be the ones that are curious and that are on the front edge. And just again, that how you can transform your business by being open to new ways of doing business, and that takes curiosity.
Awesome, I love that one.
Thank you for the unexpected question. As I already mentioned in the answer for the second question, I remember, as a research engineer, I'm 100% sure that the technology has developed very fast and will be developed very super fast. So we keep in mind that technology is going very fast. We need to use the power of the technology. That will be the power of the company and people for everyone, everything. Thank you.
Awesome, that's great. Our armed forces and our defense industry is only as good as the companies and partners that you work with, right, and the innovation that exists in the market. So I wanted to thank everyone for being here today. Thanks to my fellow panelists. Hopefully you all found it informative on a lot of the trends that are affecting the global and U.S. A&D industry. So thank you for your time and take care.